Hi everyone, it's Brittany, and today we are going to be talking about thought transmission and really whether or not it's a thing. And it's definitely a thing, but I want to kind of talk about what is actually happening. And I'm also going to be sharing one of my clients' experiences with thought transmission. So, before we even get into that, I want to remind you of what is going on here. So, you are God. You are the I am. And as God, you are dreaming up this entire experience. Now, you can look at it as a game if you want to. You can look at it as a movie. It really doesn't matter. But the point is, there is one mind, and that is the mind of God. Now, you are God, but in every individual human's experience, you are experiencing your life through that one human being's perspective. So, yes, you've manifested the human body and the mind to use it to experience life through this one perspective, to experience your dream through a perspective, or the game, or the movie, whatever you want to call it. So, because there is only one mind, what does that mean when thought transmission is involved? Well, you are not transmitting thoughts to other people, okay? So again, there's one mind. Where would you be transmitting those thoughts to if there's only one mind? You're not. What you're doing is thinking into the one mind, and based off of how you choose to perceive a person or a situation, that is the way that it will appear to you. So I had a client coming to me, and she had said she really didn't understand the whole thought transmission thing. And so we started talking, and she said, I've tried to use thought transmission before and it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work for me? But I've heard other people say that it works for them. Well, first of all, other people are not saying that it works or doesn't work for them. That's your perception. So, in your experience, you are assuming that thought transmission works, but it doesn't work for you. That's all. But what she had shared with me is that her dad and her brother have a really great relationship, and she has never felt that her and her dad have the same type of relationship. So she had said that if her brother needs financial help, her dad is right there to help him. If he needs someone to come pick him up from the airport or to take him somewhere, her dad's there. But for her, in her experience, her dad never seems to be willing to help her, or if he is going to help her, he makes her feel very guilty about it or feels like she should be doing better. And she said she's had conversations with him before where she says, I feel like you favor him over me. I feel like he gets so many, excuses from you. But when it comes to me, you're very harsh and you never give me any breaks. And her dad is always saying to her, that's not the case. That is so not true. I'm always here for you. I'm always willing to help you. But your brother has a lot of things going on in his life that you don't have to deal with. So I always feel a little bit responsible for helping him more because he needs it and you don't. And so of course that upset my client, and she's like, that's not the truth. I do need it. I just don't like to ask for help in every single thing in my life, and especially because I know how my dad's going to react to it. So I said, okay, where did thought transmission come into play here? And she said, oh, well, I was laying down one night, I was really pissed off about a situation with my dad, and I started imagining him, and I started telling him things, like whispering in his ear. And I was saying things like, you're going to help your daughter out with this situation. And I'm not going to share what the situation is because she said she didn't want me to. But she was basically talking to her dad imagining that she was whispering to her dad that he was going to help her out with the situation. Now, what ended up happening for her was that he did offer to help her, but again, he was doing it in a very begrudging type of way. He was like, I'm not always going to be here to help you. And she was just like, the whole time, it was just making me regret that I even wanted him to help me in the first place. And she's like, I really don't know how to use that transmission to my benefit if it's not going to really change the experience. And I said, okay, hold on a second. Now, it has nothing to do with sending thoughts to someone. It entirely has to do with the way that you are perceiving this person or this situation or your relationship with this person. And so she was like, okay, well, I've been affirming that we have a good relationship, but obviously that hasn't worked. And I said, okay, so what you've actually been doing is affirming that you have a good relationship and that it doesn't work. And she said, well, no, I'm only telling you that now because we're having this call. And I said, so have you been looking at the situation as if you guys do have a good relationship and now you're seeing that you have a good relationship? And she said, well, no, I'm telling myself that we have a good relationship, but it's not looking that way. It's not showing up in that way. So I said, again, what you're doing is saying that you have a good relationship, but that you don't have a good relationship and that it's not working. And she said, yeah. Yeah, I guess that is what I'm doing. And I had no idea that that's what I was doing. And she was like, well, didn't you say that imagination is all that there is? And I said, yes, I did. And she said, okay, so how come if I'm imagining this, it's not working? And I said, because you're imagining this and then you're imagining that it's not working. And she was like, okay, I'm getting what you're saying now. But how is me looking out at the 3D imagining? Everything is imagination. Everything. And imagination, I want to make this extremely clear for you guys. It is your perception. It's the way that you look at the world. It's the way that you look at yourself. It's the way that you define yourself. It's the way that you perceive your life and situations, the way you perceive your relationships. It's all of it. It's everything that you agree to buying into. That's what imagination is, whether or not you believe it's happening in a physical world or not. And there is no physical world where things are happening. Go back to what we said at the beginning. You are dreaming up this entire experience. You're dreaming it up, or you're playing in a game. Either way, it's a simulation that you've created. It's not a real world that is separate from imagination. It is all one thing. It is all taking place within the mind of God, you. Okay? So even when there are others having their own experiences through the one mind, their mind, they are having it through this perspective, this point of view, this human being, the character's point of view. But we get to change that point of view whenever we want to. So again, going back to what my client was asking, it's not that you have to think specific thoughts to send to someone else. It's that there is no one else to send thoughts to, first of all, and that you are choosing how you perceive this other person in your experience based off of what you want, not based off of what you believe you are seeing in the 3D experience, because that is being dreamt up by you as well. You have manifested or dreamt up the physical body, the character. Okay? You've dreamt up the 3D world and everything that goes on within it. You have made it all up. And you get to choose how you want to look at it. You don't have to take evidence from your five senses. And in fact, I suggest that you never do that because it will keep you stuck in a loop of something that you used to agree with that you no longer do. But you think that you're stuck because you keep seeing it. But all that is your perception, the point of view that you're looking at things through. So I gave her this example to really help make it clear. I had said to her, Imagine that you are inside of a building and there are 100 windows in that building. If you go and look out the window on the first floor, you're going to see things like cars, the street, people, buses, everything that you would see outside on a street view. But if you go up to the 30th floor, for example, and you look out that window, you might see something completely different. You might see lots of other buildings. You might see into other windows of buildings. You might see birds. You might see trees. You might also be able to look down and see a very tiny view of those cars and those people, but it's a completely different point of view. So that is exactly what you're doing in all of this experience. You are just looking through a particular point of view, and you are not forced to look through any specific window or point of view. You have the option of infinite windows, infinite points of views, because creation is already finished. So all you ever have to do is choose which way you want to look at the situation, not by changing anyone. And I reminded her of that. You are not changing your dad. You are not changing your relationship. What you're doing is choosing to look at it from a different point of view. So what point of view do you want to be looking at this from? And she said, well, I want to be looking at it from the point of view of me, who is experiencing an amazing relationship with my dad, where I feel like I can tell him anything, and I don't feel like he's judging me, and I don't feel like he's looking down on me and thinking that I'm not good enough. And I said, okay, you have the ability to do that. And it's not by trying to convince yourself that it is so. It's by recognizing that it has always been so, because creation is finished. All options are true. But your truth is going to depend on what you choose to be true. So by recognizing that you get to choose your own truth, again, not by convincing yourself of it, but by choosing it, realizing, understanding who you are and what's going on here, that's what makes all the difference. And so she said, okay, so how can I then use thought transmission? And I said, you're always using thought transmission, but it's not what you think it is. It is simply the way that you choose to perceive your life and your experience, and how you define the experience that you're having. And she said, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I am going to imagine myself talking to my dad and telling him that I'm just so grateful that I can always come to him whenever I feel I need to. And he's going to say something back to me like, of course, I'm always there for you. And I said, okay, perfect. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. If you want to visualize it, if you want to hear your conversation between you and your dad, if you want to overhear other people having a conversation, which is what I tend to enjoy doing, if you want to just talk to yourself about your relationship with your dad, or if you simply want to just accept that that is what is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, as long as you accept that because you are dreaming up this entire experience and you are now awake to choose how you dream this experience. That's all that matters. And so that's exactly what she did. And she did come back to me one time in between, and she said, so I ended up having a conversation with my dad, and he was being more understanding about things, but it still felt like he was trying to, put more responsibility on me than my brother. And she was like, so what am I doing wrong here? And I said, hold on a second. Remember what we talked about before. The five senses cannot ever tell you what is true for you. They can only follow what you determine as true. They can only follow your perception or your awareness of what you say is true. So you do not go back and forth between, well, I've said this, I've chosen this, but the 3D is saying this. The 3D does not have a choice. The 3D does not have a mind of its own. Remember, it exists within your dream. It's your creation. So it doesn't have its own power. So you cannot use it to validate you. You cannot use it to tell you what's going on. Because as you do that, you are now shifting from one assumption, one perception of something to another without even realizing that that's what you're doing. So this is why it's so important not to allow the 3D to tell you what is true. And so she said, okay, so I will just keep going and continue to remind myself that we have the best relationship. And I said, yes, exactly. You do not allow a 3D experience to tell you anything, okay? If it's what you want and you're enjoying it, then yeah, sure. You can use that and say, well, yeah, of course that's happening because this is who I am and I've always known that about myself. But not to look out and say, oh no, well, it's not happening the way that I want it to, so that means it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything, okay? So she went on her way and she had recently just emailed me, and that's why I'm sharing this story with you guys. Her dad came up to her and offered her brand new tires for her car because he said she has been doing such an amazing job paying all of her bills, doing a really good job being on her own, which she's been doing for quite a while. And he's just really impressed with her and he wants to kind of do something to show her how proud he is of her, and that her working really hard, her doing things on her own, her really never asking him for help does not go unnoticed. And she was like, oh my God, it's crazy because he said all of those things. And while, yeah, I was really happy that he did, I was more happy that he did because it was showing me that this was all coming from me. She was like, I'm actually just didn't even need him to tell me that to experience it already. And she's like, now I'm totally getting what you're saying, that the 3D isn't going to give us anything. Like, it gives us the experience, but it's not going to give us that validation that we're looking for. And I said, yes, exactly. It will give you a temporary experience, a temporary feeling. That's all. That's all it is. But you're responsible for being happy, for being satisfied with who you are. And nothing outside of you is going to ever give that to you. It just really won't. And so she said, what I've been practicing now is just anytime I want something, like you mentioned in your last video, I'm just giving it to myself right away. And she's like, the more I do it, the more it feels amazing. And the less and less I'm really caring so much about what is showing up in the 3D world. And I said, yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly what I want. Because the thing is, guys, again, I think some people in my last video were maybe didn't really like that I said, you need to stop relying on the 3D. You need to stop worrying about the 3D. You need to stop looking for anything from the 3D. And that does not mean that you can't enjoy your experience. I mean, really, what would be the point of even having this experience if you couldn't enjoy it? That's ridiculous. I would never say that. But what I am saying to you, and I will never stop saying it, is that you will never receive freedom from the 3D world. You will never receive love from the 3D world. You will never receive abundance from the 3D world. In order to have an experience of abundance or have an experience of love or an experience of freedom, you must first recognize that you are those things already. You are already free right now. You are already abundant right now. You are already love itself right now. All of those ideas are dreamt up by you. They don't exist without you. You're the source of all of it. Of course, it's all taking place within the one mind of God, which is you. So, yeah, guys, I hope that this video was helpful for you. I wanted to share a client's story just because, honestly, There's so many. I have so many, but I have been holding back on sharing simply because I don't want you guys to get distracted, or I don't want you to compare yourself to another when there is no one else to compare yourself to. Okay? These stories that you're hearing from me are coming from you. They're coming from you. So don't use them to work against you. Use them to your advantage. Recognize that I've come up with this idea somewhere within me, and now I'm using it as motivation to remind me that this is all just me. So it's not this other person that got success and not me. You are a success, okay? You are a success. So start recognizing that, guys. Stop comparing yourself to others when there are no others to compare yourself to. Okay? All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I did also want to mention that I have just opened up a membership channel. Now, I do not have any content on there yet, but what I am planning on doing is starting to do some Q&A videos there. So what I first want to do actually is, for the first video, I want you guys to go ahead in my comments or wherever you can on YouTube, write questions that you have that you want me to answer. You can either do it there, or if you prefer to email it to me, that's totally fine too. My email is iamwithbrittany@gmail.com. So you can email the questions there as well. Or always just write it in the comments, that's fine. But I am going to film that Q&A video. But then after that one, I want to start doing them live. So right now, I do not have like a date set to do a live Q&A. I want to kind of get some feedback from you guys as well, just to see like kind of time zones and everything. Most likely, I'm going to have to do it in the evenings just because that's what works for my schedule. But I'll keep you guys posted on all of that. But for now, I will absolutely be filming this week a Q&A video that I will be posting on the membership channel. So if you guys want to join the membership, I think there's just a little membership tab that you can see in my channel. I'm sure you guys know how to do it, but if you need help, you can just reach out to me and I can help you. But that's what I'm going to be doing. Lots of people have been asking me to do Q&As, and I love doing them. So again, to make it very clear, I'm going to film a Q&A, answering whatever questions you guys leave me within the next several days. And then after I post that one, I'm going to plan on doing live Q&As from here on out, because I think it'll just be fun to be able to like interact with you guys in a different way, and on live will be really fun. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for being here with me. I love you all so much. You guys are just so amazing. You're so supportive. You're so kind, and you are just amazing. So yeah, thank you all so much again. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video.